Tonight begins the last 2 days of the holiday of Pesach. Tonight is Shvi Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach. The day that we commemorate the Jewish people crossing over the Red Sea and singing songs of praise to God as they watch their enemies drown in the Red Sea. And then the final day of Passover, which begins tomorrow night and celebrated on Sunday, is the final day of Achron Shel Pesach, the very last day of Pesach. And what do we do after we concluded the 7 days of Passover, beginning with the Exodus, the 7th day concluding with the splitting of the sea? We have one more day of Passover. And what do we do on that final day? We talk about the ultimate redemption. Yes, we were redeemed from Egypt, but now we're back in exile. And so on the very last day, we think about the final era of the coming of Mashiach, when the world will be redeemed from all of its misery and suffering and pain and tragedy. And the world will know God in a revealed way, and it will be an ultimate and final redemption. The great prophet Malachi, the last of the prophets, tells us one of the signs of the era of Mashiach, to know when it's imminent, a sign that we are experiencing this very day. You see, Moses was the first prophet, and he talked about teaching your children, telling your children on the night of Passover the story of the Exodus from Egypt. And indeed, for thousands of years, that's the way it happened. Parents taught children, and those children grew up and taught their children. And that's the way Jewish tradition was passed on for thousands of years. But the very last prophet, Malachi, talks about a different shift, a paradigm shift in education. And he says, I will send you Elijah the prophet to herald the day of Mashiach. And how will you know he's coming? Veheshiv leiv avot al banim. You will see that the hearts of the parents will be stirred and aroused and returned through the children. You see, unlike all of Jewish history, where parents taught children, before the final redemption, we will see the way children will bring their parents back and closer to God and to Judaism. And this is a phenomenon we're seeing across the world that we've never seen before, where children are connecting to Judaism and teaching their parents and their grandparents. There is not a Jewish family that does not know of someone in the family that got closer to Judaism on their own accord. Although not raised with it, they started to observe Torah and mitzvahs and go to shul and daven and learn Torah and keep kosher and Shabbat. As someone once said, people used to say, my grandmother lit Shabbos candles. My grandfather put on tefillin. Today you hear many people saying, my grandson puts on tefillin. My granddaughter lights Shabbos candles. In our very own community in Palm Beach, we know of so many families that the parents were drawn closer to Judaism through the inspiration, through the encouragement, through the path that their children forged, connecting them back to Jewish life. And indeed, they tell a story about this father who was an atheist, who would always tell his son, there's no God, there's no God. But the kid insisted he believes in God. So one day, the father put a sign in his bedroom that said, God is nowhere. When the kid came home, he went into his room and he heard his kid singing and happy. When he came out, he said, why are you so happy? He says, well, you put up a wonderful sign in my room. He says, really, what did I put up? He said, you put up a sign that says, God is now here. Yes, many children have brought God into their home, into their lives. And the parents are lovingly being taught and being reconnected to Judaism through the children. This is a phenomenon known as the baal teshuva movement, the returnee to Judaism movement that is stronger than ever in Jewish history, and just another sign that Elijah the prophet is not far off. I tell a story in Israel that there was this very secular couple, and they had a daughter who became religious. And she got engaged to a nice religious boy, and they were planning the wedding. And the mother came to the daughter with a gift. And he said, I have this very expensive set of Scheiner that I want to give you as a gift for your new home. And the daughter said, Mommy, thank you so much, but you know, me and my fiancé, we're going to be keeping kosher. And your dishes are not kosher, so unfortunately, China cannot be koshered, and we're not going to be able to use this gift, so there's no point of us receiving it. And the mother started to cry. And the daughter said, Mama, Ima, I'm sorry if I offended you. I'm just telling you the truth. I won't be able to use your dishes. And the mother said, I'm not crying tears of sadness. I'm crying tears of joy. She said, you know, me and your Abba are very secular Jews. We don't observe practically anything. But my father was a Holocaust survivor. And he came to Israel, and he was a very religious Jew, but I rebelled and became completely estranged and secular, estranged from Judaism. And when I got married, my father came to your Abba, my fiancé, and said, I want to give you a gift. And it was a brand new talit. And your Abba said to my father, thank you so much, but I never go to shul. I don't even go to shul on Yom Kippur. So I have no use for this talit. And I saw the sadness in my father's eyes, that after everything he survived, came to Israel, led a religious life, and had faith in God despite everything. His son-in-law said he had no use for a talit. And I always regretted that. It always pained me. I always felt sad that he was so disappointed that the man I married would not even have any use for a talit. However, she said, today when you tell me that you and your husband are going to keep a kosher home, I realize that that talit that your grandfather, your Saba, wanted to give to your father, to my husband, did not go in vain. But he spread that talit out all the way back from Poland, all the way out to you and your future husband. And that talit and that Judaism is enveloping you today and will be passed on to your children, my grandchildren and great-grandchildren. All of us had religious ancestors. Perhaps tragedy, wars, Holocaust interrupted that. But as we get ready for Mashiach, we see so many children coming back to Judaism and bringing their parents along with them. Let us hope and pray that we will experience the final redemption to take us out of all of the darkness of exile, and the world will be filled with light, goodness, righteousness, peace, love, and kindness. Wishing everyone a final Chag Sameach for the last 2 days of the holiday.